All right, thank you so much for keeping it daybreak. I tell you, the conversation actually didn't stop. We continued having it off air, but yeah, now we pick it up on air. Just talking about the state of the nation, I'm hosting 4 gentlemen with me in studio. Robert Mbui, the Member of Parliament for Kathiani constituency. We have this morning Kennedy Ondiek, the UDA Coordinator, South Nyanza region. We have with us John Nene, Secretary General, Labour Party of Kenya, and Suba Churchill, the Executive Director, National Civil Society Centre. Before we went on break, we were discussing this list of the cabinet nominees, and Ondiek seems to be suggesting that the process has just begun, Mheshimiwa Mbui. It's sort of like jumping before the gun. I mean, this list is still going to be presented in Parliament, and you still have a role to play with regards to whether you're going to green light it or not. And the question would be, are you helpless? Does it mean that this is a done deal from where you sit, or there is still something that you can do to, represent your concerns through your power as a member of Parliament who will be part of those who will be vetting these cabinet secretaries?
Yeah, thanks. You know, when I listened to my friend Ondiek here, I thought, is he the only stranger in Jerusalem? Sorry, Kenya. Because, I mean, we before he came in, I talked about this issue of Parliament. When we asked what to expect, and I said, I hope that this House now can do the right thing, because Parliament has been completely neutered by the executive, and every Kenyan knows that. So I hope my friend knows that the president has been running Parliament. And in the sense that whatever he proposes, members of Parliament are almost completely at his mercy. And that is why you saw that even when we tried to debate against some of the proposals in the Finance Bill 2023 and 2024, members of Parliament who knew that those things were going to bring contention, even in their own constituencies, they still supported it. Because in a way, just before we do any voting in the House, he would call a parliamentary group. And by the way, he does this in State House to show them he has the power, the ultimate power. And then he tells them, now you guys go and pass it. So in essence, Parliament has been neutered. And so when he says that, this thing is coming to Parliament,
this is it.
So let me tell you, when he says that, it's coming to Parliament, unless Parliament changes, and I'm very happy when I hear that there will be serious recall of members of Parliament, because members of Parliament are supposed to be representatives of the people. That's one of their duties under the Constitution. But unless something seriously changes, there's likely to be those UDA and Kenya Kwanza, members of Parliament still following up on what the president has done. And they'll come and say, this list was given by the president. We are under obligation to support what the president brings to the House, so we must vote in support. That is what they always do. That's what they did even, I sit in the appointments committee that deals with vetting. I was there when we were vetting the current cabinet, the immediate former cabinet. And there are many members that we had issues about. And the same team said the same thing, that, this is a president's list. It will be embarrassing to the president if we reject the list. Now, because I know they are watching, let us agree that the Parliament now must stand up to be counted. And if there's any nominee that we feel for one way or the other that the public is uncomfortable with, then let us reject those names. I personally will be rejecting quite a number, but we'll be doing it in a transparent manner if we get to that point.
But John, how do you receive, what Mheshimiwa is saying, that sort of like this is sort of like a ceremonial vetting process that is going to take place at the end of the day? This is it, that the list that the president unveiled the other day, that is the list that we are going to see as our new CSS. How do you receive that?
Just before we talk about the vetting, I also want to tell my friend Ondiek that is really quoting strong sections of the Constitution and giving a mandate of a smooth-running government system. We are not in a smooth-running government systems where you are trying to bring the Constitution to support a legitimate government. We are in a crisis, and during crisis, we respond to the issues according to what will be better for the country. And it's not a matter of saying that I'm a legitimate president, this is how I should act, yet the country is burning. When in 2007, 2008, the government of national unity is not constitutional, but it was necessary because of the situation of the day. So it's not, let these people come to the reality that the country is not in the same situation like before. Let them not act in a status quo as if things are normal. Things are not normal. We are in an abnormal situation, and they have to listen to the public opinion. They have to listen to what young people are saying. They have to listen to what the Kenyans are saying. Now, when it comes to the issues of vetting, first of all, I'm representing the citizens now, and the Gen Zs and the millennials. We don't want this list first. That is number one. Two, under the pressure that we have created to this member of parliament, if they go ahead and vet people who we feel that are not qualified to be in this cabinet on the current situation, then they are bringing fire on themselves. Because you remember what happened. You know, I want our leaders to be sober, to handle the current crisis with a lot of soberness, a lot of intelligence, a lot of consultation, so that we don't make the same mistakes. When the famous finance bill was thrown out, what happened to members of parliament who voted yes? You saw what happened. The public went there. Some of them could not enter their constituencies. Houses were burnt. The anger of the public is still out there. So they have to be very careful when they're handling these issues. They have to listen to the public more than they should listen to the president, you know? And this idea of the Mheshimiwa is just scaring us. I thought Mheshimiwa would say that we are going to throw it out, you know?
I was a bit concerned when I heard that this is sort of like going to be a rubber stamping of the list that the president, you know, is going to present in parliament. But a quick question out of curiosity on Ondieki. Did he have to return the 6 cabinet secretaries from your perspective? Especially considering the complexities that the currently is in. Did he have to do that?
What mistake did the 6 do? Did they have a mistake of being appointed ministers? Or is there substantive questions that were raised as per one particular minister?
But he himself raised questions of incompetence. And when he was saying, dismissing this except, the 6 were not in that except list. So what justification did he have to return the 6? That was my question.
You see, I want to make it very clear for the nation and for the sake of the debate that the president, while dismissing, did not otherwise make those ministers unappointable. They can still serve. There are people who have served even in other governments and came back and served as ministers again in other governments. Let us not pretend that we are in heaven. Let us wait for heaven to do everything as it is. What I want to make it very clear is that members of parliament in Kenya have a duty to the people of Kenya. The president has a duty to the people of Kenya. If we want to indict the president for having these ministers, then I wish members of parliament like Mbui, who feels that he is too much unable to perform in parliament, would have gone to the public and presented his resignation. What is difficult in a member of parliament resigning that I can't work? If you feel that the environment where you are, when Oginga Odinga was the vice president of this country and he felt that he was so sabotaged to the extent that he could not do anything relating to his office, he said, I will not be earning public money and doing nothing. If these members of parliament from last year, they claimed that they were not able to do anything because they were hijacked. This year they came and said this finance bill we are passing because we are hijacked. I wish I would have seen Honorable Mbui presenting a resignation and saying, I wanted to serve Kenyans, but I have not been able to serve Kenyans because of the situation in parliament.
All right.
They keep sitting in parliament and they keep pretending that there's nothing going on, and we are being told that they are sold. They confirm that they are bought, and we have not heard them saying, I was not bought and I did my thing correctly. If you are in a working environment, even yourself, my sister, you are here and you are not able to perform your duties as pertaining to your job description, you will just tender your resignation. I want to see members of parliament tendering that resignation, that they cannot do this before this list go to them, because if they feel that they are not going to have ability to discuss it and ventilate it well for the interest of Kenyans, I want to see them leaving those offices, not waiting to be recalled. Because they are also sitting there waiting for 5 years to end. Why can't they also let the president wait for his 5 years to end?
All right.
Because they are not able to do anything. Because the situation which Kenya is in requires seriousness. When the president calls for dialogue, they don't want to come. When the president asks them, Their opinions they don't want to give. They have no opinion, basically, because they have nothing. No one can tell me that the people who have been nominated in that are not professionals. What are you telling me? These Kenyans are professionals. If they are not professionals, then let them be proved on vetting.
All right.
Personally, I believe that even if you take, let me bring you back to a story. There were days when Professor P.L.O. Lumumba was moving this country, moving the masses, fighting to fight corruption. He made himself so important to this country to the extent that he was made the chairman of the EACC. He ran away simply because what he was saying in theory was not practical in that office. So there are things which we have to agree. Even if you take my brother Churchill Soba and make him Minister for Finance, he will still bring finance bill to the parliament. And he will be chased away with it if the tendency will be that any finance bill that will come will be chased. Let us have a country to run. In as much as we want to do things, when he talks about Article 37, Article 37 is in the same constitution which is containing Article 10, which is containing Article 152. So why do we, there are people who like reading one verse of the Bible and walks away with it. They don't want to read other verses which otherwise support or oppose that. They are parts of the constitution, like Article 40. Provides that the government and the president has a duty to the protection of properties of everyone. When you go demonstrating, in the process you destroy property that belongs to someone else who has also struggled to put that his property there. That person blames the government to protect their property. When you come with stones, you claim that you are not armed. When you break into the walls, those strong walls of parliament, how did they break to get in? Then you want to tell me that those are young people who are just fighting for their rights by breaking parliament and no one blocked them at the door? Basically, they didn't have any petition to present.
All right,
what are we saying?
I want us to hear what the head of state had to say with regards to what is going on in the country. Initially, there was that tone of a conciliatory tone, but then yesterday we had the head of state taking a different turn, and this is what he said yesterday when he was in Bomet County, just explaining what he has done so far and asking, what else do you want me to do? Enough is enough. Let's listen into what he said.
Walisema tusipitishe finance bill. Mimi nimewacha finance bill. Nikawaita wakanasema hawataki kuja kuzungumza na mimi. Wakaniambia niende huko kwa X. Mimi nikaenda kwa X. Wakatoroka huko hawakukweko. Wakaniambia tuitishe mazungumzo. Nimeitisha mazungumzo, wamekataa. Nimewaambia wanaendelea kusema wao ni faceless, wao ni formless, sijui wako nini. Mimi nimewaambia sasa my friends, you know, I have given a chance to everybody to say whatever they want. You know, it cannot continue like this. Going forward, we will protect the nation. Going forward, we will protect the nation. We will protect life. We will protect property. We will stop the looters. I want to promise you it's going to stop. Enough is enough.
Churchill.
You know, very interesting indeed that the president thinks he has done enough at a time when he is still holding on to over 40 advisors. One of them on livestock, another one on agriculture, another one on food security, whatever that means. When you have advisors that are even more than the cabinet as contemplated in the constitution, and the president has the audacity, and I'm saying that intentionally because the president is our servant, not our master. He spoke as our master, but we are telling him that is not the context. The context changed with the adoption of the 2010 Constitution, and we are telling the president, you must meet us halfway, even for that dialogue.
But
I had a meeting with young people yesterday.
On the problem at hand, as you continue to respond, he says,
yes,
what we are dealing with right now,
yes,
he has tried to listen to the voice of the Gen Zs.
Yes.
He has tried to do 1 or 2, 3 things, including even the issue of the finance bill.
Yes.
We had him the other day talking about the IEBC,
yes,
signing it into law.
Mm-hmm.
He has dismissed cabinet. He's trying to say, I have tried to do whatever it is that you're asking. What else?
Exactly.
When I'm calling you to dialogue, where are you?
You know, it's not that people do not want the dialogue. In fact, even our meeting yesterday, people are saying we are not opposed to dialogue. But when young people continue to disappear in the streets, when the president appears to be calling for dialogue but holding a dagger, behind his back, we all know that, even the context in which Koitalel Arap Samoei was killed, he had been invited by the colonial authorities for dialogue, but they killed him. and so that history, Kenyans are alive to such history, that for us to have dialogue, one, you must acknowledge that this number of Kenyans have died in the street. There is no single Kenyan that has been shot there. All these young people, there's none of them who has been shot holding a stolen property. Because if you are shot breaking into a shop, you'll fall to the bullet where you are. The people that we have been seen shot are shot in the middle of the road. Look at the shooting in Kitengela. In the middle of the road. What property does the president want? Which life? Is there any protester that has killed another? No. Is there any protester that has killed a policeman? No. But it is the protesters that have died. Which life is the president saying he's going to protect? Is it the life of protesters or his own security? Because when you have the military out there, one of the things that we do not want to discuss, what is the meaning of the military being out of the barracks? They know.
I know I'm not allowed to interject. I just wanted him to substantiate if he has the particular video, for example, of a protester being shot. The activists have misinformed everybody in this country. Sometimes those videos come when there's canisters, they are different. I wish there would be played just a single video of a police officer shooting directly to somebody. Because you see,
we saw these things on TV. Can you give me can I use my time? Can I use
which you are giving to the public?
Okay, I want us to go in order.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you are suggesting, Ondieki, that there was no shooting.
I'm not suggesting that there was no shooting. But you see, there's a lot of emotion weeping in respect. Have you not seen videos of businesses vandalized? Are they not talking about those businesses? Those businesses are employing Kenyans, being vandalized by people who have no idea of how those people put up their businesses. If there's a problem, you also people, in as much as you want to fight for the right of people, fight for all rights. Don't fight for only the rights of those who are on the street.
You see, look at Eldoret, for example. When people invaded business, unfortunately owned by a member of parliament.
It was a single business?
Yeah, owned by a...
There are several other businesses in Nairobi.
Can we have order? I never interfered when you spoke, and you had quite some airtime. When business, we have never seen even those people being arrested at the site of that looting. What we have seen are people being rounded from the streets and arraigned in court with charges of looting or being in possession of property, stolen property. All the shootings that we have seen have happened in the middle of the road, the Kitengela one. It was not a creation of anybody. We even saw a policeman bending to pick a spent cartridge because he knows that spent cartridge can be used to trace the gun from which it was shot. He was destroying evidence that can be used to hold the police to account. We have never, and I'm repeating this, we have never seen any of the shootings happen at the site where somebody is looting. In all instances where looting has happened, police have always arrived after the fact, including in the Ruby's petrol station in Kitengela, where we saw young people, and the media has been very fair, where the media has caught protesters on the wrong. They have shown the public that this is what a section of the protesters did. When police shoot, and I think this is where the head of state has a problem with the media. The head of state would not mind the media focusing their lenses on looting, but not on somebody being shot. Mm-hmm. When people are being shot, the state claims that they are reporting irresponsibly. Yet, international guidelines and principles on the right to protest require that the media and even independent observers are allowed to, monitor and document and report on the policing of protest, because there is a way in which protesters must be given and facilitated to protest in a peaceful manner.
All right.
If the police would have set out to protect property, to protect life, as Mr. Ondiek would want us to believe, and the state that he serves, would have seen the police trying to keep people on the road so that they do not digress. Of course, I'm not refusing the fact that a few protesters may have digressed, lost focus on the bigger picture, and invaded property. But that is precisely why police are informed about protests. They are supposed to be there, marshal the protesters along the path that they're supposed to use as they express their anger and outrage and possibly present petitions. But what do we see? Police go out and declare the protest, first of all, illegal, and therefore not allowing anybody to express themselves.
John, still your sentiments on the same. Do you feel it's time for us to move on? There's been talks probably this weekend building up of the political leaders and even some of the religious leaders telling the Gen Zs it's time to put bricks on the protests. Let's allow the government to implement some of the things that they have promised they are going to implement. We had the deputy president yesterday. I don't know whether we have that. The deputy president also talking about the Gen Zs. It is time for the young people to give the government a chance to implement some of the promises. I believe we'll get that clip shortly. But all right, let's listen into what the deputy president said. This is just adding on to the voice that has been picking up over the weekend for the protests to stop. It's time to allow the government to now implement. Let's listen into what he said yesterday.
So we want to ask the Gen Z, you have spoken, we have heard you. Please don't allow your protest to be hijacked by criminals, people with the criminal intent to steal property, to destroy property. I think what you have said is now enough. You don't need to say anything more. Rais amesikia, serikali imesikia, kila mtu amesikia. Sasa wacha tuongoje action ile itaendelea, so that we don't get something that had good intentions hijacked by bad people.
All right, so this was not yesterday, this was on Saturday, but of course he maintained the same message yesterday during an event that he attended yesterday. It's time to stop the protests and allow the government to his tone is a bit soft, but the president yesterday was a bit tough. Yes. But the message is the same. It's time to stop. Enough is enough. Let's move this country forward. What do you think?
First of all, I think we are having a miniature environment that is prevailing in the country right now. Mm-hmm. If you look at the government representative here, Mr. Ondiek, he's very hard on Churchill, because the president has painted a picture that civil society, funded by some Ford Foundation and stuff, are the people who are now pushing this second, third revolution of the Gen Zs, which is very much, for me, it is a wrong notion, because the Gen Zs revolution came naturally. And Safin, the reason why these young people are in the street is because of the tough living conditions that are prevailing in the country right now. The economy is very bad. And these young people, before, even if you ask them, they were never interested in politics. But now they are saying we are interested in politics. Why? Because politics of the day has affected their lives. There are people who have finished school, there are people who have skills, there are people who have talents, they want to be active. It is a very active age, and yet they're just sitting at home. In every house, these guys who are sitting here will testify. There are 4 or 5 young people who are jobless, just sitting there on their social media stuff. So the situation in the country is tough. I don't know whether these UDA guys have imagined the worst. You know, Kenyans, we loved this TV series called Game of Thrones. And there's a guy who says, when there's a tough situation, I imagine the worst. I don't know whether this guy has imagined the worst that he can go. Because the power of the people, there is no power strong enough to stop the power of the people. I don't know whether the president has imagined that what people are saying can go can also be possible. Because for you to have level-headed mind and to come to your senses and reality and to solve issues in a more sober way, you have to also imagine the worst. This guy is still running this government with the old script, and yet we are telling him, please, do this thing in the new script so that we can get a country that is serving the people and improving the quality of lives. And some of the suggestions we are saying is that we need a competent cabinet and we need people who have clean track records. We don't need people like Chirchir who have very bad track records, who have corruption links beyond them. And we need people who, even in the public eye, Kenya is a country with a lot of professionals and skillful people. Do you think that those people who appeared in the office of the IMF outside the country, do you think they were sponsored by Ford Foundation? Are they civil society people who are pushing? The whole of this country is behind the Gen Zs. It's a public opinion. So what we are saying is, please, we need our country. We need this country to work. We need this country to sober up. And we need the president to come to the reality that there is an issue.
All right.
Which needs to be discussed.
Mheshimiwa Mbui,
Yeah.
he says he has invited people to the discussion table. Nobody seems to be taking that invite seriously. They are faceless, formless. I mean, who does the president talk to, really? And he's also saying there are concerns that there are grievances that have been raised, but who has brought proposals in terms of the solutions? I need you to give me proposals in terms of policies, in terms of what do I do? You know, nobody has brought solutions, it's just complaints. Is the president justified to make that particular statement?
You know, Safin, the president
he even
must
came
have
to the
had,
Twitter space. He says he has done all he can as a head of state.
I'm sure the president has heard the voice of Kenyans when they say, do not recycle the people that basically were there, and you yourself dismiss them. Look for new faces, look for professionals, avoid appointing friends and political allies only to cabinet, because you can have those do other jobs, but not to run the government. But, you know, I think he's not been listening. Allow me to just say that I like Ondiek's advice to Kenya Kwanza members of parliament, because those that have failed us are those ones that have voted consistently in the manner in which they're being directed outside the house, not those that have been voting with their conscience. And so he has advised that instead of them continuing to earn their salaries and they are not able to fulfill their obligations under the constitution, which is representing the people that voted for them, then they should be resigned before they are recalled. So I take that advice to, yes, obviously, because I am doing the job that I have been employed to do. I'm representing, I'm oversighting, I'm legislating. And those members of Kenya Kwanza that are not doing that should take his advice or shape up when we come back to the house. Because I think after the president threw them under the bus or the Finance Bill 2024, possibly now they might be a little different, and we might see a different approach towards issues in the house. Because, I mean, we also know that some of them lost their properties, and, you know, some of them up to now cannot step in their constituencies just because they didn't represent the people as expected. I also think that the goons that have been involved in the demonstrations should be dealt with legally. You know, because we saw some young men that raided, you know, I think it was a supermarket in Ongata Rongai. We've seen those ones that raided some shops in town, also the ones I think in Kitengela. And I think some of them are captured on CCTV, and I think legally they should be arrested and taken to court and charged with the crimes that they have committed. What we are uncomfortable about is when people disappear, and the people that are disappearing are not people that are criminals. They're just people that are probably, you know, fighting for their rights, people who have been vocal and have said that we are unhappy about the governance of the country. Now, Safin, we need to find solutions, and it is important eventually for us to come to the table. But I'm very happy at what we have been told here today, that, you know, you can go to the table when you don't know the trap that has been set out for you. You can have a sitting with somebody who's holding a knife behind their back. You might go to the table and get killed. I think that's what that's the space we want is to see, because the agitation has been for good governance. Let us start seeing some goodwill. And we had seen goodwill when there was a dismissal of almost all members of cabinet except the president, deputy, and the prime CS. And I said this before. It was also, at that time, I felt it was strange that he has dismissed almost the entire cabinet and left only one office, the only one that that he couldn't dismiss was one, and it was also unconstitutional because the Constitution doesn't recognize the office of Prime Cabinet Secretary. So I found it also a bit mischievous. But let me tell you, Safin, for us to heal the country, you must go back to figure out what has brought us to where we are. And it's important for all of us to focus on it. President Ruto was deputy to Uhuru for 10 years. The second term of 5 years, the deputy president, William Ruto, then spent the 5 years undermining, criticizing, belittling the sitting head of state. He's been a very good teacher to a lot of us. He spent 5 years on top of vehicles, never in the office, going around criticizing the head of state, and recruited a lot of members then of Jubilee that went with him and were used as a mouthpiece to continue criticizing the head of state. And then he also has been the one that has caused divisions. He talked about the hustlers versus dynasties. That created a problem of class. He talked about later, I remember when we had that issue of the Finance Bill 2023, he talked about there's a fight now between people with salaries and those without. He's very good at dividing people. And that caused also a big rift until, in fact, some of the people who are salaried could not talk against things like the housing bill and those proposals that were tax measures that were affecting people's pay slips. Now, he also gave very major promises during the last campaigns. Very, very major promises. He told the people that are at the bottom of the bracket, they are all going to get wealthy. The one with the boda will have a matatu. The one with a mama mboga will have a supermarket. Those promises are the things that are driving this revolution because people feel that they were given, you painted a very, very good picture, but what he's delivering is totally different from what he said to them. So it is important that when we start talking, we also go back and say there are things we said during the campaigns that were not going to be possible, and we are sorry that we lied to you. And now let us start at clean slate, and let us agree that some things were never going to be possible, even though we managed to get into office. Now let's see what is possible and what is not, so that we can begin to heal the country. Eventually, there must be a time when we will sit and talk to each other.
Ondiek, is that an admission that the government would even be thinking of taking, that probably we may have promised, but there are things probably as government we have not done right? Is this a government that can do that for Kenyans at least?
That is why I started by saying that we are in a Republican democratic system where a group is elected once after 5 years. If the president promised 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you cannot judge him in 20 months as to whether those are possible. Let me tell you, the president started when the country was at a situation where it was. We had a lot of debts, we had a lot of things to take care of. The president, I was on this table when I was discussing why we took where the government had to take a Eurobond, to take care of a Eurobond which was already maturing, and we had to pay. And I said here that dawa ya deni ni kulipa. We could not fail to pay. Now, when the president took power, and I want to ask, I'm not very hard on is my said here. After all, we are all sick on X. So I'm not hard on him. I'm only saying, like now, I might have ask a little question, and that might also sound hard on him. He has said he was meeting young people. These young people have said they don't have leaders. Which young people was he meeting? Was he meeting the leaders of Gen Zs who we have been looking for every time? Because we are looking for the leaders of Gen Z. Maybe he knows them, he met them. Now, I want to tell you,
for them to kidnap.
The president made his promises to Kenyans. And I'm very sure that 2 years is not enough. 1 year, 20 months is not enough to deliver on that. And the president found the price of unga somewhere. The opposition went on the streets with sufurias on their heads, complaining about unga. It was at a very high price. Today, unga, we all know the price of unga today. The president has acted in ensuring that the price of unga has gone down. The prices of fuel was very high. The president has acted in ensuring that the prices go down. I hope I'm not lying. Yeah, that's the truth.
It's even good that
the price of fuel, as at the time, because I'm telling you, let us just be honest. If we are not honest, then we are not going to have a country to run.
Must he be that reactive, though?
No, it's not reactive. You see, when somebody has been given a duty to do, and is actually doing it, someone somewhere who doesn't want him to do it.
A good example is now, Diego. People have been complaining about this cabinet. people have.
Let us not look at cabinet.
Before
Let
even
us,
the Gen Z revolution.
the Gen Zs were talking about.
Did it take the youth to go to the streets for the president to act?
He has said that there is tough living condition, which was tough at even time when the president came in. But the president is trying his best. The prices of fuel is not the same. Prices of hunger is not the same. The dollar stability level is not the same. You saw where the dollar had gone to. Now, what do they want the president to do? Honestly speaking, even if he was the president, what would he do? Because the president needed money to take care of the tough conditions. The president doesn't want Kenya to go into several debts. Every time they talk about borrowing. And now let me come back to why I came to studio today. And allow me a few minutes to tell you something. That one, Kenyans need to differentiate which information they need to consume and which one they don't need to consume. This is because there's a lot of misinformation, there's a lot of malice in the country, there's a lot of misinterpretation of facts. Let me give you an example. The president had a team that went to the United States. They went to look for particular support sources. They got support sources amounting to 600 billion Kenya shillings. And when Kenyans were informed by the public, by the media, that 200 million was spent, the media focused on the 200 million and they refused to focus on the 600 billion support that
Are you
Kenya
suggesting that
is going
they
to get.
shouldn't have focused on the 200 million expenditure, which some thought was a bit overrated?
I am saying, let us know the information that we give to the public. Let us not just say things which are insightful. Like now, when people were called to talk, as we speak, the opposition are struggling to have their members into the cabinet. That's what they are doing. It is not even talks.
Look at the body language.
That's the truth. And in fact, that's the problem in Azimio now.
What are you
That's the problem in Azimio now.
It's
Let me
good
tell you,
it's taking us.
that is the problem in Azimio now, that they all want their people inside this cabinet, and that's why they're fighting. Kalonzo wants his people, Raila wants his people,
good it's gone that
Wamama wants
direction.
his people. So even these people who claim to be defending the rights of Kenyans are not looking for the defense, they're looking for opportunity.
All right.
That's why he's talking about government of national unity. Why do you want government of national unity when Kenyans went to election and elected a government?
All right.
Yes. So there's a group of
time.
people who want to get their way
Because
into the
of time,
government. They
because
want to
of
cause
time.
problem in the country so that they are invited to a talking table so that they get to the government. That's the truth.
Allow me also hear from Chachi. Chachi, what are
That's
the
the truth.
reasons-
So
what
let
are
us
the
speak the
reasons
truth
why-
as it is. If some people want
Onyeki,
ministers,
Onyeki.
let them tell us that. Why do you propose names? They're
All
busy
right,
bringing names to the
Onyeki,
president.
you've had your say. Chachi, one of the
if
reasons
this is
why...
the kind of dialogue they are calling, then it's not going to be. Not a dialogue. A dialogue
What is
not
happening?
where-
All right, let's
dialogue
listen
is
to
not
what
where
he's
you do the talking and others must listen. You also allow others to speak. And one problem we have, actually people have even with the head of state, is where he's the one who prays when the meeting starts, he's the one who prays when the meeting ends. He must not be the one doing everything. We see him in the cabinet praying. When he met the Chief Justice, the one who prayed. When he met the Gen Zs on X, he's the one who prayed.
You have a
I mean,
problem
they can also, delegate.
Is there anything wrong?
No, but he's not the only one who is gifted with the Holy Spirit to pray for the meeting. But having said that, one of the reasons why there is these suspicions around the dialogue is that there is a process. There's a process towards dialogue. That's why even countries that have gone through conflict go through a truth, justice, and reconciliation process. What the people, the civil society that met yesterday was saying, that can it be officially acknowledged that there are people who have been harmed, there are people who have been hurt. Let the state say, the truth is, this number of Kenyans in 2023 fell to the bullets of the police who are supposed to have protected them. In this current wave of protest, this number, that is the truth. So you acknowledge, you accept. And we thought that the president would start by saying, sorry, gentlemen, in the heat of the moment, some of our officers may have overreacted and terminated lives of people who otherwise would have been treated legally through, processed differently. That is one. Then we are saying, let there be justice, because you cannot terminate the life of a young person who perhaps, had his own aspirations and so on, has been educated by the public resources, and then you just expect the family to accept it as that. If the family does accept and say, I don't want to be compensated, that is a different story. But that is what we expect, so that there is a conducive and enabling environment for that dialogue. As it is, and with the journalists, you people not even being safe, and Ondiek has the courage even to accuse the press in their own platform, which the press has provided, you know, accusing them of misinformation and so on. That environment is not for dialogue. So we are saying, stop the kidnapping. Our laws and constitution talk of arrests. What we have been seeing are people who do not even bother to identify themselves. They come, manhandle you, force into vehicles, and take you, blindfold you. We have had these stories from all those that have been abducted and so on. And then you are interrogated and left or abandoned to your own devices. Some have not been lucky to emerge, to return to their families alive, and are now, you know, in morgues and so on. So we are saying that enabling environment is critical for dialogue.
So it's not just dialogue, but even the environment.
The environment in which dialogue,
the intention.
Exactly, because what we have is a crisis of confidence.
I want us to get to sample a few views from our viewers this morning as we just about climax this conversation. So we invited your feedback on our social media platforms, and this is what he was saying. Being Mugala, those sabotaging both government and the protests must stop. Those spreading misinformation, goons and propaganda should stop. A way forward should be sober, deliberate, and solve the biggest issues such as corruption and unemployment. We have Lucky Boy Maingi, same old faces. It was about dissolving the cabinet, not reshuffling. Ruto had already done a reshuffle and it didn't work. We have Bobotieno Wino. I agree with President William Ruto. He has danced a lot to the Gen Z tunes, and they've gone overboard by trapping themselves with more protests after making their demands, and government was inviting them. Enough is enough. It's time to work. All right, we have Frank Orinde. When the president appeared on the X space, he was given a list of things he should do. He has decided to do exactly the opposite. He dismissed his cabinet and he renamed them back into cabinet. I mean, he's not sincere, and that's one of the biggest problems. We have Sengeli Brian. We shouldn't dictate who the president should appoint to the cabinet because the Constitution of Kenya 2010 already has adequate provisions. Our role is to hold them responsible and accountable. However, if we allow incompetency to be appointed, we can't expect productivity. All right. Thank you for that. And as we are about to wrap up, there is also that critical issue that has been emerging. And I'd like both of you to also weigh in. I'll begin with you, Mheshimiwa Mbui. With regards to this dialogue, seems like, look at the front page of the Standard, Raila this way, Raila that way. And it goes ahead to say that it's no longer clear where he stands, what he wants. Yesterday, he came up with a list of demands that must be fulfilled before he engages in dialogue. There was the other day that he was saying dialogue is the best way to go. Has he not made a decision on, or his team has not made a decision on what they want with regards to whether the dialogue should happen or not?
Safin, at the end of the day, bottom line is that there must be some form of communication. We must reach a point where we talk to each other. That's a definite. So I think the real issue is at what point do we do this? And you know, when can we sit at the table? What are the kind of conditions that have to be fulfilled so that we can sit at the table? I think eventually we will all sit at the table, and it's all specters of, I mean, all different you know, groups, political class, business community, those that are in the religious space. All these people, the youth, of course, have to also play a big role in it. Eventually, there must be that conversation, but unfortunately, we can't rush into that conversation now under the current situation where there is demonstrations going on. There are people that are being killed. There are people who have not yet been buried. There are people who are still missing. And then the president himself said there will be compensation. We've not seen the manner in which the compensation will be done. So there are certain things he can do now to give people confidence that we are probably providing solutions. And you've seen somebody who just said that in space he was told in X space he was told do not reappoint the same people, and he has gone against that. So basically, there are certain things we need to see some kind of goodwill. And this issue of threats that the president has you know, he seems to be threatening. It doesn't work. You know, he threatened the last time and they went to Parliament. In fact, before the threats here, they had never got to Parliament. They got to Parliament and they got angered. So you don't want to annoy the Gen Z. You don't want to annoy the citizens of the Republic. And the issue of also misinformation that Ondieki has talked about, because he says, I don't know, the media is misinforming the public. The reality here is that Ondieki has totally misinformed Kenyans when he says that, you know, the president has done something to reduce the price of fuel. I will tell you two things he's done to increase the price of fuel. He's increased VAT from 8% to 16%. That's not a drop. He has also increased illegally and introduced a road maintenance levy, raised it from 18 shillings to 25, which is illegal because it hasn't come to Parliament yet. So basically, the only reason the fuel prices have gone down is because of the international fuel price. That is the only reason fuel prices have gone down. And food prices because of the rains. You can't take credit for the rains because that's God's work. You can't take credit for international fuel prices. But then finally, I want to talk about the issue of, you know, this thing of us, because he said, oh, you know, Azimio is angling and fighting for positions to get into. We have said it. I don't know what language you understand. We've tried English, maybe Kiswahili. Hatutaki kuingia kwa serikali. The responsibility of government ni William Samoei Ruto and Kenya Kwanza. Important. We don't want to be there. But you know, there could be. Safina, I'll tell you, there could be individuals. You know, I mean, we are all human. There could be a few individuals that would be interested in going into cabinet. I'll give one example of my former leader of minority, the Honorable John Badi. He went clearly out there and really spoke very strongly about joining government. He's a nominated member of parliament. If he's interested in going to join Kenya Kwanza regime, then he's going against the fidelity to political parties. He has to resign as the chairman of ODM, and then he can go and become a CS. There's no problem with that because he qualifies also to be a CS in Kenya. But as Azimio, as political parties within Azimio, the positions we have taken in all our PGs is that we are not joining government. But at the end of the day, we must find a way to also support on certain issues. Like, for example, if we find the country is going to the dogs, then we have also a role and a responsibility to ensure that we also preach peace and bring the tempers down.
Well said, Mheshimiwa. Yeah. I'm really pressed for time. I'll give you a final round of your closing remarks. I'll begin with you, John. But a lot has been said on this set this morning. We hope that it will inform our way forward as a country.
Okay, no. What we are saying is that let's approach the situation that is happening in the country with a lot of soberness. Mm-hmm. Let's have honesty in the dialogue. And even if the Azimio team, they should not try to take advantage of what the Gen Zs have created. This platform is not Raila's platform. This platform is the Gen Z's platform. So they should not come here and say they want to fill in the positions that in the cabinet. That is not possible. Raila Amolo Odinga is a respected politician. He was the potential president in the last campaign. He is eyeing the AU job. Mm-hmm. He has international respect. He can himself convene the multi-sectoral dialogue. I don't think the civil society and don't think that Gen Zs don't have leaders. They have leaders. I see them collect money through their leaders. It's only that their leaders fear coming out because of the threats from the government. So this thing of if Azimio's intention is to get into power of a national unity, then that will go very bad for them. But if for me, I would think that Raila Odinga would have called the international community, the regional representatives, the multi-sectoral, so that they can advise the government as a voice of the people.
Thank you, John.
Yes.
Ondieki, your final thoughts?
Yeah, personally, I'm saying that we have a country to run, and we cannot throw our country to the dogs. We must discuss, but discuss responsibly. The government has spoken, the president has spoken, the deputy has spoken. If there are challenges, they are going to be addressed. The main thing we have to agree is that as a country, we respect the rule of law, and it is the one that provides for all rights and also provides for all duties that lie upon everyone.
All right.
Where there is a right comes with an obligation. You cannot enjoy a right to the extent that you don't know that there are also individuals whose rights are also there. We have limitation of enjoyment of rights. Our Constitution is very clear that there are certain times when you want to enjoy your rights to the extent that it jeopardizes some other person's enjoyment of their rights, then that one is now not allowed.
Thank you.
When you want to enjoy your right as to picketing, as to doing anything, it must be done in a manner that does not interfere with other person's rights.
All right, thank you so much. Churchill, your final thoughts? There's a crackdown looming also on civil society. And
yes. I mean, it's unfortunate that, you know, in this very studio, before the section of the cabinet was dismissed, the CS for Interior sat in a one-man panel and told the public and the world that there are politicians from both sides of the divide fueling the protests. Now the state is saying none of that was true. It is Ford Foundation. I mean, a country that Ondiek and His Excellency ran cannot be run on such guesswork. And when you throw out accusations that smack of conflict of interest, because Ford Foundation has come to say, we are not just funding this, Kenya Human Rights Commission. We are not just funding the Institute for Social Accountability. We are not just funding, Inform Action and so on. We have also funded the Climate Change Conference. Why are you not asking us to account for that? We are also funding projects run by the First Lady.
Thank you, Chachi.
I mean, why are you not asking us to account for that?
Chachi.
And so we want to ask the state that, we have allowed you to employ National Intelligence Service. Please get the information right and tell the public what is evidently true before you, turn the civil society into the punching bag that is now happening.
All right, Suba Churchill, he's the Executive Director, National Civil Society Center. We were also engaging this morning Kennedy Ondiek, UDA Coordinator South Nyanza Region, Mheshimiwa Robert Mbui, Member of Parliament for Kadhiani constituency, and of course John Nene, the Secretary General, Labour Party of Kenya, as we are looking at some of the issues in the state of our country this particular morning. We just put a comma to this conversation. Of course, a lot that is still developing, and we will be picking up this conversation tomorrow. Of course, we also know that it's coming at a time when the Gen Zs are planning another round of protests tomorrow. So a lot to discuss and also to look out for in the coming days. My name is Safina Cheng. I was sitting in for Sam Gituku. Thank you for watching, but the show continues. The sports team will be here. Sporty Monday is just about to start. So do stand by for that and much more. But for now, it's a wrap for us. Enjoy the rest of your viewing.